Hi, my name is Laura, and today I'm going to be going over 7 Bible study tips. Okay, so tip number 1 is always helpful to start with prayer. So when we go to start studying the Bible, we should be praying to God and asking for Him to open our heart, mind, soul, so we can receive wisdom and understanding from Him. So the second important thing to remember when you're starting to study the Bible is that you want something, you want a Bible that is easily readable. And I'm not just talking about like in context, I'm talking about like physically being able to read. So for example, this is one of my old Bibles. Let me turn to a page. You can see that the words are kind of small, and I don't have the vision I used to probably. So when I did start studying the Bible, I had this at one point and I couldn't really see it. So that's why this Bible wasn't kind of sort of optional for me to use. What I did end up doing, based on a previous video, I did buy me a new Bible due to another issue, but I wanted to make sure also that the one that I was studying from had a large enough print to where it was easily able to be read. So you're not having to strain your eyes. And when you also get a Bible, you may want to also make sure that it's one that you feel comfortable with writing in, or, marking up, coloring, however you want to take notes. So the third important tip for when you're starting to study the Bible is to also use either another translation or also to use a study Bible or a very respectable commentary. Like for instance, we mainly study out of the King James versions. That's what I grew up reading. So for me, it's not so bad, but other people may not be able to understand some of the old English words. So in that sense, you may want to have like a alternate study material so that way it can help you with understanding what you're reading. So this is one of the books that I had, or one of the paraphrase. Um, I thought it was the New Living Translation, but it's what had led up to the creation of the New Living Translation Bible. But this, it helped me in understanding some of the wording that I hadn't understand. In this, I got second-handed from one of our thrift stores. But then I'd use that, and I also had gotten this. It's the Zondervan King James Version Study Bible, and it has like a commentary made into it at the bottom. There's notes and commentary, and in some places there's like pictures, depictions. Okay, so the fourth Bible study tip that I have is your materials. Not just what you're studying, but also what you're going to be using for note taking. Now, for me, I use a specific color-coded system that I came up with, and it just helps me understand the context that I'm using. So, I'll go over that in just a brief moment, but here's some of my favorite things. Like, I like these type of highlighters, these pencils, these pens. I also like using just regular this pen. Nothing like too specific, other than the color system I was talking about. But also, you may want to keep with you some bookmarks. I've just got a wide variety here of different things, index cards, which those also help for bookmarking or writing like ideas that you need to, thoughts, ideas that you need to write down real fast. So that's some of the things. Also, post-it notes I might recommend. You don't have to use the color-coded system. You can create your own. But that was just something that helped me be able to understand or break it down. Like I was talking about how the words sometimes run together, especially if you're using a smaller font Bible. It helps it break it down into sections, so that way you're just trying to review like a section at a time, and then as you build onto that, you can get a more understanding of what's actually going on. So here's the color coded system I was talking about. I'll just go over it real quick. For instance, I use green for life and creation. Pink is for mercy, kindness, love, compassion. Purple I use for Jesus's words or parables. And then blue I use for like law instruction. Sometimes I use it for general, just to help break it away from other colors in case there's like, say there's a lot of green at some point, but then there's a little bit just of general information that's not specific to these topics, then I may just bracket it off in blue. Um, Orange I use for sin, man, like when it's not talking about them dying or being born. I use it for mentions of like Satan, devil, evil spirits, or just like generally whenever somebody does something wrong. Yellow I use for salvation, God, angels, Holy Spirit. I also use it for prophecy. And then red I've added to use for like God's judgment and wrath. So the fifth Bible tip that I would offer is to have a note-taking system. For example, I already had a planner that I was using for work, so I had found cute stickers that you can put on it, and they were Bible themed. I got those from Family Dollar, but you can use either like I said, this was a planner, I think like a daily, weekly planner, or like you can also use a regular notebook, which I've also done. Just some way of taking notes. This was something that I had started when I first got saved, and what it does is it helps keep me on track to where I was reading the Bible consistently, at least one chapter a day. Here's where I actually got started in Proverbs. Like you can take index cards, you tape them in here, so you can highlight. There's more index cards. So you can do this relatively cheap. I mean, you do not by all means have to do anything fancy. If you want just simplistic, this is one way that you can do it. And sometimes what I would do is go through and I would write the verse down or break the verse down and use keywords out of it to help me find more information about it and go through references. Okay, so this is not a specific tip as far as how to read the Bible or helping you understand the Bible, but this is actually helpful. So I guess you could count this as a tip. There's this. I'll put the link in the video, in the comment section. But I found this. It's a chronological list, for both Old and New Testament. I have it of the events that happened in the Bible. And that way, then, say if you're wanting to go through and read it chronologically, then you can. Okay, so this would be my next optional Bible study tip, is that I had made this template, but you can do it on regular paper, if you know like what sections to include on it. And what it does is it has a section for the book and the chapter, keywords that you're wanting to look up, your key verses, and then you write out the context of what you read about. And then there's a section with how does this chapter speak to me? And then another section is like, how can you apply this chapter to your life? Or what questions do you have about this chapter? Then you have a section for further study. And then also a place to write down references that were mentioned throughout that chapter. For instance, my Bible, it does have where it references to other verses. So that was very helpful. Okay, for this part, I kind of had to pull the camera out a little bit further. So I'm going to show with you my seventh helpful Bible study tip. I guess you'd consider this 7 or 8, but this is how I chose to stay organized. Now, the easiest or the cheapest, I will put it this way, the cheapest way to do this, go to Dollar Tree, buy 2 1-inch binders, If you want to label that, you can, but you don't have to. But at least 2 1-inch binders, and then go to Walmart or wherever you can buy the cheapest cardstock paper and find you a marker. Because all I did, the reason I said when you go to do your study notes to make sure you keep them, like if you're studying Matthew 1, do Matthew 1. If you're studying Matthew 2, do Matthew 2. Is you can take cardstock. Oh, you might want a hole puncher, 3-ring hole puncher of some sort. And you can hole punch it, just write Matthew on there and put it in here. Or Mark, Luke. I've got the whole Bible done like that. I've got both a set for Old Testament and a thing for New Testament. And I keep that thing I showed you at the beginning, the chronological order, in here. And the reason I do that is so that way, like, if I'm going to church and say I take sermon notes too, in addition to my own chapter study, I can keep everything one place. But that's the reason I would suggest that, and I just put them in here based on where they're at within the Bible. Try to make sure everything's in order. And, right here, the lineage of Jesus Christ. Like, if you are using a King James Version Bible and it says begat, 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 when I was growing up, I could not understand that a whole lot. Like, I kind of understood what it meant, but at the same time, it felt overwhelming, the list of begats. And I was like, okay, well, how can I visually break this down so I can understand it? So, you can even take notes like this and put it in here, so that way, if you need to come back to it later on, you can. Hi, I wanted to thank you for watching this video, and just to quickly review the 7 tips that I suggested for Bible studying. The first being prayer, the second being the Bible that you're choosing to read from for your study, the third being your study resources, such as like a commentary or another translation. And number 4 being how you utilize your study materials, such as your pens, pencils, highlighters, crayons, whatever that you're wanting to use. Number 5 would be using like a notebook or a planner to create a system of where you're held accountable for trying to read the Bible daily. Number 6 would be the optional chapter study template, to where you could go more in depth with your Bible studies. And number 7 would be for like staying organized and using a binder system or some way to organize your sermon notes and also your chapter notes. If you like this video, click like and subscribe.